Ciao YouTube, and welcome back to World of Warships with Wadres. And today I am going to be just going over this little beauty of a ship, the Tier 7 Premium Italian Light Cruiser, the Duca degli Abruzzi, which, having had a battle in her already, she is a very good performing little ship, to say the least. As long as you use her right, she does get the job done. And on top of that, just looking over her primary camo scheme and her paint job, she is also a good-looking ship to boot. So definitely a nice little ship to have in your port, and she works very, very well at her job. So anyway, moving on, let's just go into her stats before we take her into battle. As far as her survivability, she has 32,500 hit points and a rather interesting 16% torpedo damage reduction, so I suppose I should look at her armor profile at some point and figure out where that comes from. As far as her main battery, she has 2 double and 2 triple 150mm main battery mounts, with 1 triple and 1 double, both fore and aft, which is a 10-gun broadside, definitely reasonable numbers. And she does also have a small assortment of 100mm secondary battery guns. These guns are decent with a 7.5 second reload, 22 second 180-degree rotation. They fire with a maximum dispersion of 127 meters. Her HE shells do a maximum 2100 damage with 4% chance of fire on target, and her AP shells do 3100 damage. Going out to a maximum range of 15.1 kilometers, she does have rather flat ballistic trajectories because these shells do have some fairly high muzzle velocities. For torpedoes, she does have 2 side-mounted triple launchers, which the torpedo damage itself is not phenomenal. You're definitely not relying on it for long-range torping, despite the fact that she does have a stellar 12-kilometer maximum torpedo range. But these torpedoes are slow at 51 knots, so I really would not rely on them for any long-range torpedo work. These are definitely more for close-in, just finishing off close-range targets, and yeah, just basically just last-ditch save-your-skin weapons. For AA, she's not the greatest. She does have an AA defense rating of 30. She will definitely benefit from AFT, BFT, and some other AA modifications, but definitely not something that I would consider speccing for entirely, just because you're really not going to draw these numbers up too much, so there is that. As far as her maneuverability, she has a maximum speed of 35 knots across the surface, a 680-meter turning circle, and a rudder shift of 7.1 seconds, which does make her a reasonably nimble little ship. As far as her concealment, she is seen on the surface at 10.8 kilometers, her air detect is 7.6 kilometers, and after firing her main battery in smoke, she is seen at 5.2 kilometers. So these are definitely very fair light cruiser stats, to say the least. As far as her upgrade modules, I'm running her with Main Armaments Mod 1, Propulsion Mod 1, Aiming Systems Mod 1, and Steering Gears Mod 2, and these are pretty much standard modifications that I put on cruisers, because I found, especially with the Propulsion mod, that a lot of times the light cruisers tend to have their engines knocked out, so I kind of like to keep that active as long as I can. She is running the standard premium camouflage that she comes with, which has a 10% reduction to service costs and a 15% increase to experience earnings. As far as the captain, he has a 10-pointer that came with her. He has preventative maintenance, expert marksman. I've opted for superintendent instead of the AFT, BFT, or torpedo armament expertise, and I've also opted for inertia fuse high explosive, just to try and get a little bit more, I guess, work out of her main battery in place of the lackluster AA, which I will work on, I guess, as I flesh this captain out a little bit. But the main batteries are definitely where this ship tends to shine a little bit more. Now, as far as this match goes, it was my first match in the Abruzzi. So, with that in mind, I actually do reasonably well. And I hope it goes a little bit in saying how comfortable this ship is to play as far as premium ship goes. And I hope in that regard it also helps inform you a little bit as to what she's capable of, especially whether or not you are hoping to end up with her in your port, either through the Christmas crates or just through purchasing her straight up. In my opinion, she is definitely a very capable little ship. And this is also coming from a player who really is not liked very much by light cruisers. I tend to be substantially more aggressive than they enjoy. And with that being the case, I tend to put them in positions where the enemy battleships tend to just get a little bit too much of a look at their broadside and just tend to just outright delete me. Even so, I still manage to carry my weight in a lot of cases, and I suppose that is one nice bonus of being a better player, I guess I could say. I'm definitely not a stellar player. But overall, just something to keep in mind. Now, one of the other advantages that I do have in this match particularly is that I am also running in a top tier match. So I'm at tier 7. It's a tier 5 to 7 match. So instead of Iowas or Seattles or Izumos, I'm stuck with Nagatos, Colorados, one Queen Elizabeth, and we've also got an Omaha and a Mahan. It's predominantly tier 7s, so I mean, it is at least mostly even tier, to say the least, but there are a couple of lower tier ships like the Omaha and the La Galissonière, and, well, of those, the only one that I really end up seeing actually is the Omaha. Now, starting off, I was hoping to get a little bit of a shot at the enemy Mahan, but it's kind of running way over to the island here, and I don't get as much of a shot as I would have liked. But that just means that I primarily focus my attention on the enemy Omaha. Now, this is tier 7, and the Omaha being tier 5, and I don't think it has an incredible amount of armor. I probably could have used AP to great effect, especially looking at her on the bow. But, I mean, even the HE for this ship is reasonably strong. So, well, I probably could have used AP and maybe overpenned her bow. I'm not 100% sure on that. I was definitely still seeing reasonable numbers with the HE shells. And once she started going broadside, it was pretty much a guarantee that I was going to just absolutely wreck her. Of course, now I also have a reasonable look at the enemy Mahan, and these shells just move so quickly across the field that it doesn't even have any chance to maneuver at all. Granted, being a bot, it's not like it would in a lot of cases anyway. And unfortunately, the friendly Queen Elizabeth also gets the kill, so I don't get to see how quickly I would have taken it down. Having said that, though, I would rather see the destroyer dead than being a threat to any of the friendly ships for any longer than necessary. Unfortunately, I also don't get the kill on my evil twin, I should say. HE only left her with 13 hit points, so the friendly Omaha was able to finish it off, but you know what? Again, I'd rather have the ship dead than being a threat to anybody. Now, here is what I'm talking about as far as me being a little bit more aggressive, and this is where I decide to play a little bit more conservatively, much to my benefit, but the detriment of our Omaha. And that instead of popping out into the open like I would have in a lot of other cases, I decide, you know what, I'm going to go around this island and put something between me and these battleships. But before I did drop off torpedoes on the Colorado, anticipating that it was going to slow down a good bit, And I am going to land one torpedo here. But you can see what I mean as far as these torpedoes. They are slow. If this Colorado had not slowed down at all, it's very reasonable that I would have absolutely missed. So you're definitely not wanting to rely on these torpedoes too much for an incredible amount of damage output. They're just too slow, and unless you're in close quarters, they're not really a viable weapon choice. Definitely, again, something to use for close quarters, finish off the target more than anything else. And our Omaha, I do have to say, did actually hold his own rather well against these battleships that were pushing in. But at that, he is a Tier 7, or he is a Tier 5, and he's looking at a Tier 6 and a Tier 7 battleship. They are going to overmatch him, they are going to take him down. And overall, he definitely deserved a little bit better than that, but I also kind of had to think of my longevity a little bit. If I had put myself in the same situation, I probably would not have survived too much longer myself. Now, I was going to drop torpedoes on this Queen Elizabeth, but once I saw that the friendly QE was pushing in, I opted not to, just because he was a little too close for comfort, and I really do try to not drop torpedoes on friendlies. Though there are some who I've hit in the past who would argue that point, but that's beside the point. And beyond that, at this point, there's really just one target left for me to shoot at, and that is the enemy Ranger. And I'm actually having to adjust my aim back a little bit, because normally where I would give a substantial amount of lead for the shell velocities, these shells do travel very quickly, and I have to give less lead to compensate for that. Overall, I do have to say she's definitely a very, very strong, very powerful little ship. She certainly has her rightful place at Tier 7, and she's certainly nothing to shake a stick at. In fact, I've had, for a first match in her, this was a very, very good match, and I'm very glad to have ended up with her in my port. I also like the fact that the shells move fast enough where I can actually kill the ship that I was focusing down on and farmed the vast majority of damage on, so there is that too. Of course, I landed 167 main battery hits, which is a rather stellar number. 95,595 damage done, 150,101 credits earned, 1,599 experience points. Seriously, you couldn't give me one more. And 96 free experience points. I did land the top of the team with 2 ship kills and 7 plane kills despite the lackluster AA, and 512 base experience points. As far as her damage, again, the torpedoes that I launched, I only hit one. It did 8,000 damage. Everything else was fire, secondary battery, or main battery. The lion's share came from my main battery with 84,000 damage done between my HE and armor-piercing shells. And overall, definitely not bad. And for the targets that I chose to focus my attention on, the damage numbers are very, very reasonable. So, definitely reasonable target selection and, I guess, target focusing. As far as net earnings, I earned 79,896 credits for the match, and my commander earned 1,700 experience points. Anyway, on that note, I hope this taught you a little bit about the Abruzzi. I hope you liked what you saw. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. And I hope I will catch you all again some other time. Happy hunting, stay safe, and take care out there, y'all.